Chapter 85, The Road to Discover the Ancient City. At one time, the Buddha lived in the Garden of Solitude in the Gion Grove of the Acropolis. One day, the Buddha said to his monks, disciples, if in the past, when they had not yet attained enlightenment, when they were still practicing the Bodhisattva path, they often thought that this world is so painful and troubled that once they are born in this world, they will grow old and die. After death, it will be born again, so life and death, the cycle is endless, and it is tormented. However, I don't know how to get rid of the pain of aging and death. How can I understand the practice of liberation from aging and death? When disciples were still bodhisattvas, they often thought, when something exists, there will be old death. What is the prerequisite for old death? The disciples, after careful thinking in the past and the actual experience of their own practice, explained with the wisdom they have already realized, when life exists, there will be old death, and with life as the precondition, there will be old death. Disciples, this is the method of dependent origin. Disciples, when they were still bodhisattvas in the past, often thought that when being exists, there will be birth, and with being as the precondition, birth will occur. When taking exists, there will be have, and with taking as the precondition, have will arise. When love exists, there will be taking, and with love as the precondition, there will be taking. When acceptance exists, there will be love, and love will arise on the precondition of acceptance. When touch exists, there will be acceptance, and with touch as the precondition, there will be acceptance. When the 6 places exist, there will be touch, and with the 6 places as the precondition, there will be touch. When famous colors exist, there will be 6 places, and with famous colors as the precondition, there will be 6 places. When knowledge exists, there will be famous color, and with knowledge as the precondition, there will be famous color. Disciples, once knowledge arises and exists, name will appear and appear. Once knowledge exists, it cannot transcend fame, that is to say, once knowledge exists, it will know material things and spiritual thoughts, and it will not be able to free itself from the material world and the spiritual world, so born in the world, aging, dying, and being born in the world again, aging and dying, so life and death, the cycle is endless. In this way, knowledge as the precondition produces famous color, 6 places are produced with famous color as the precondition, touch is produced with 6 as the precondition, receive is produced with touch as the precondition, love is produced with acceptance as the precondition, take is produced with love as the precondition, take is produced with take as the precondition, and birth is produced with have as the precondition, so that having birth will produce sorrow, sadness, distress, worry, despair, aging, and death. This is the process by which the sufferings and troubles of people or beings in the world gather and appear, and people or beings in the world will continue to suffer and sink in the cycle of life and death according to the method of dependent origin. Disciples, this is how the cycle of life and death occurs, and this is how the birth, old age, sickness, and death of people or beings in the world arise and appear. In the past, when they were bodhisattvas, this is how they opened up their wisdom and understood the process of gathering and appearing the troubles and sufferings of people or beings in the world. The disciples, as they continue to think, when something does not exist, there will be no old death? What precondition is the destruction of old death destroyed? The disciples, after careful thinking in the past and their own practical experience, explained with the wisdom they have already realized, when life does not exist, there will be no old death, and the old death can be destroyed on the precondition of the destruction of life. The disciples, as they continued to think in the past, when being does not exist, there will be no birth, and the precondition of being is the premise that life can be destroyed. When taking does not exist, there will be no have, and the have can be destroyed on the precondition of the destruction of taking. When love does not exist, there will be no taking, and the taking can be destroyed on the precondition that love is destroyed. When receive does not exist, there will be no love, and love can be destroyed on the precondition that receive is destroyed. When the touch does not exist, there will be no receive, and the receive can be destroyed on the precondition that the touch is destroyed. When the 6 places do not exist, there will be no touch, and the touch can be destroyed on the precondition that the 6 places are destroyed. When the famous color does not exist, there will be no 6 places, and the 6 places can be destroyed on the precondition that the famous color is destroyed. When knowledge does not exist, there will be no famous color, and the famous color can be destroyed on the precondition of the destruction of knowledge. Disciples, knowledge is destroyed, and fame will also be destroyed and destroyed. Once knowledge is destroyed, it transcends fame, that is to say, once knowledge is exhausted, there will be no more knowledge of material things and spiritual thoughts, and will be liberated from the material world and spiritual world, so that it will not be born in the world countless times, old age, death, and will not be cyclical and endless life, old age, sickness, and death. If I have come to my heart, I have realized this road to supreme enlightenment. What is this path to liberation? That is, when knowledge is destroyed, fame is destroyed. When the name is destroyed, the 6 places are destroyed. When the 6 places are destroyed, the touch is destroyed. When the touch is destroyed, the receive is destroyed. When suffered is destroyed, love is destroyed. When love is destroyed, take is extinguished. When the take is destroyed, the have is destroyed. When the have is destroyed, the birth is destroyed. When life is gone, sorrow, bitterness, worry, despair, old age, and death are gone. This is the process by which the sufferings and troubles of people or beings in the world are eliminated and destroyed. People or beings in the world can be freed from the troubles and sufferings of the cycle of life and death by following the retrograde movement of the method of dependent origin. Disciples, this is how the cycle of life and death is destroyed, and this is how the birth, old age, sickness, and death of people or sentient beings in the world are destroyed and destroyed. In the past, when the disciples were bodhisattvas, they opened up their wisdom through their own practical realization, and understood the process of eliminating and destroying the troubles and sufferings of people or beings in the world. Disciples, just like a man came to the deep mountains and forests, he accidentally found an ancient road, so he followed this ancient road, and in the process of traveling, he saw the houses and gardens where the ancients lived in the past, saw the beautiful lotus pond, and saw the cities and palaces built by the ancients in the past. Disciples, after this man discovered the ancient city hidden in the deep mountains and dense forests, he wandered around the ancient city for a while, then ran back to his country, and reported to the king and the ministers, and he said to the king and the ministers, "Your Majesty, my lords, when I went deep into the mountains to cut firewood, I found an ancient road, so I followed this ancient road, and in the process of moving forward, I saw many houses where the ancients used to live, I saw the vast forest garden, I saw the beautiful lotus pond, I also saw the tall city wall. I ran into the ancient city excitedly, and found that there was a gorgeous and solemn palace pavilion in the center of the ancient city. I walked into the palace, climbed the pavilion, and did not see anyone there, but the palace pavilion was well preserved, not damaged, and could be lived and used again. I guess it may be that the people in the past, in order to escape the war, the whole city moved out of the ancient city, and I also found that there were countless houses in the ancient city, with wide streets, squares, and even many abandoned pots and pans. Your Majesty, my lords, you can send someone to this ancient city with me, you can take over this ancient city. This ancient city is very well preserved, as long as it is slightly repaired, it can be used again." When the king and the ministers heard this, they were very moved, so they sent 100 soldiers to follow this man to the ancient city, and not long after, the soldiers sent back to report to the king and the ministers that there was indeed a well-preserved ancient city. So the king ordered, "Restore the ancient city, open roads, establish markets, allow the people of the country to move to live, allow merchants to come and trade," and it didn't take long for the ancient city to be restored. The road to the ancient city was paved and expanded, and the ancient city was crowded and busy. Merchants from all over the world flocked to this ancient city, bringing goods from all over the world to do business with each other. The people repaired and built many houses and settled in the ancient city for a long time. Countless fields have also been cultivated outside the ancient city to grow grain and vegetables. The king and ministers saw that the ancient city was more prosperous than the capital where they now lived, and the palace pavilions in the ancient city were taller and more gorgeous than the palace pavilions of the capital, so they moved the capital of the country to the ancient city, and in just 3 years, the ancient city became the political, economic and cultural center of the country, with a population of more than 1 million, and became the largest city in the surrounding area. The king conferred on the man who discovered the ancient city an official post and gave him a rich reward for his work in guiding the way. Disciples, what is the ancient path of enlightenment and enlightenment? In the past, which ancient path did they follow to realize the supreme enlightenment and attain liberation? Disciples, if I tell you, this ancient path to the supreme right enlightenment and to liberation is the Noble Eightfold Path, namely, right view, right thinking, right speech, right karma, right life, right progress, right mind, right determination. Disciples, this ancient path has long existed, and it is only by walking along this ancient road that one realizes old death and the gathering and cause of old death. Only after realizing the extinction and elimination of old death can we realize the practice method of old death and annihilation. When disciples follow the ancient path of the Noble Eightfold Path, they realize birth, being, taking, love, receiving, touching, 6 places, name, knowledge, walking, and ignorance. Only then do they realize the gathering and causes of birth, being, taking, love, receiving, touching, 6 places, name, knowledge, walking, and ignorance. Only then did one realize the extinction and elimination of birth, being, taking, love, receiving, touching, 6 places, name, knowledge, doing, and ignorance. Only then have they realized the practice methods of birth, being, taking, love, receiving, touching, 6 places, name, understanding, doing, ignorance, and extinction. Disciples, it is because they have followed the ancient path of the Noble Eightfold Path that they have attained the supreme enlightenment, the wisdom and fruit of liberation from life and death. And can they tell the male and female disciples who practice as monks here, and the male and female disciples who practice at home, the whole process of practicing enlightenment, and the spiritual process and experience of realizing the supreme enlightenment, liberation, wisdom and fruit. Disciples, if you practice according to the Noble Eightfold Path, your physical actions, spoken words, and inner thoughts will be complete, you will be liberated from the cycle of life and death, you will be able to attain supreme enlightenment, you will also be able to realize the wisdom and fruit of liberation, and you will be able to attain the realm of immortal and immortal nirvana. Just as the ancient city is discovered along the ancient road, the ancient city is repaired and rebuilt, the economy of the ancient city begins to prosper, the ancient city becomes the capital of the country, the ancient city becomes the political, economic, and cultural center, the population of the ancient city reaches more than 1 million, becoming the largest city in the surrounding area. You can gradually reincarnate from the place of bad pain to the house of wealth, from the house of wealth to the heavenly realm to enjoy blessings, from the low-class celestial realm, reborn to the high-level celestial realm. The merit is getting bigger and bigger. Finally, they are directly liberated from the cycle of life and death, realize the different levels of liberation fruits, and finally realize the supreme enlightenment and achieve Buddhahood, reaching the highest state of nirvana without birth and immortality. Disciples, you should practice according to the Noble Eightfold Path, which has been verified by your own practice in the past, and is a completely correct practice method, such as through the practice of the Noble Eightfold Path that you gradually achieve supreme enlightenment and attain the highest state of nirvana without birth and immortality. After the Buddha's teachings, the monks who listened to the teachings all paid homage to the Buddha again, praising the immeasurable merits of the Buddha's teachings, and they all practiced according to the Buddha's teachings.